This happened to me in 2012, while I was doing my military service. I was 2 hours from Glasgow, in Scotland. It was a typical winter night, cold and rainy, as always. I was with my partner Homer, and we were coming back from the patrol we had made at a military base. This area was very old. We arrived at the barracks. There were other companions. I think we were about 10 in total. We met and stayed outside talking while we were on guard. At one point we saw a fog approaching. We first saw it about 300 meters away. But that is something very common here. We kept talking and watched the fog come closer. It was about 200 meters, then 100 meters, and we were waiting for it to arrive. You know how it is when rain or fog approaches, but minutes passed and, while we were talking, we realized the fog never reached where we were. We turned toward it. Believe me, I'm not fooling you. The fog was stopped. It looked like it was watching us. It was totally still. Before that there had been wind, but at the moment the fog hung there, the wind was gone. Everything was quiet. There was total silence. The fog was about 50 meters from us and it didn't move. It made no sense. Fog should continue on its course. We didn't know what was going on. We were surprised and suddenly a little scared. It felt as if the fog was watching us. We took out our weapons. We didn't know what was happening. We couldn't explain what we were seeing. Suddenly, next to that fog, we saw something like a person walking inside it. Then this person, or whatever it was, disappeared. The fog began to fade right in front of us. It never approached. Suddenly it just vanished. To this day we have not been able to explain what happened. It made no logical sense because the fog did not advance. After it disappeared, we began to hear the air again, the wind. None of us could explain that night. At Campo Norte, on Viamonte Street in Tucumán, Argentina, there are stories of paranormal situations from when the 19th Infantry Regiment was stationed there. Nicholas says his father worked there as a volunteer doctor and often had to stay the night guards. The hospital always had a doctor in case anything happened to the soldiers. One night this doctor had to attend to a soldier who was on guard toward the back of the regiment, an area that then was practically an abandoned hill. The soldier said that while doing his rounds he heard someone laughing, the laugh of a woman. He went toward where he thought the laugh came from, looking for the person. As he walked, behind a large tree he noticed what looked like someone hugging the trunk. He could only see hands. He shone his flashlight at the tree and asked who was there. The hands were those of a woman, and then, from behind the tree, a very old woman peered out. Before he could say anything, the woman seemed to transform into a very light shadow and began to rise a few meters, disappearing into the darkness. Even though he searched with the flashlight, he could not find her. Scared, he turned to return to his post. As he walked he heard footsteps next to him and the laughing continued until he felt someone cover his mouth from behind. He says he was paralyzed. He tried to push them away, but it was impossible. While he was on the ground, paralyzed, he saw that woman kneeling next to one of the trees and lighting a candle. After that she moved away laughing. He was so terrified he couldn't even speak. Eventually he was able to sit up and went to the office where the doctor slept. He was still awake and saw the soldier enter, so shaken and disengaged the doctor didn't know what had happened. He calmed him down and had to give him a tranquilizer. A few minutes later the soldier was able to tell the story. The doctor didn't believe him, so they left the area together and called a sergeant. They went to the tree where the soldier said the woman had lit the candle. To their surprise, the candle was almost consumed. Against the trunk they found Rooster's legs tied with black ribbons, and nailed to the tree was a photo. They saw it and, of course, they didn't dare to touch it with their hands. They kicked it with their feet and then returned to their posts. They say that from that night the rounds intensified, since they couldn't understand how someone could have entered without being detected. Since then, many soldiers who were guarding there said they saw that woman.